Well, hey folks, welcome back to the farm. I'm actually not at the farm right now. I'm in town. But anyways, today's kind of part 3 of a 3-part series as to why some people shouldn't have chickens. So I don't know if you've been paying attention to my most recent videos about this whole debacle with Tractor Supply and what is and what isn't causing chickens to lay or not to lay. But anyways, I just thought I would summarize today, and of course I want to say thank you to a few of the folks that have reached out and provided their support. And I mean, I definitely should thank a few of the folks that went the opposite way too, because it really gave me some perspective about where we are as small producers. But anyways, where it all started was a buddy of mine tipped me off that there was some concern amongst folks that raise chickens, whether they're on a large scale or a small scale is kind of irrelevant. But the common denominator amongst many was this Tractor Supply feed and whether or not there was an issue with it. And so I did, initially I tried to make a mildly amusing but still helpful video, and that didn't go as intended, right? I had a number of folks that were very angry that reached out, and I had to delete a number of comments, unfortunately, because the tone was just so awful. And I mean, I have friends and family and stuff that watch that, and the whole channel is really intended to be a family oriented thing, and not for folks to come on and see a bunch of curse words. And anyways, it's not the appropriate platform for that. So I had to get rid of a bunch of that stuff. But the following day, of course, I was elevated, I was escalated, because I shared a lot of very good, very useful knowledge regarding why chickens may not lay and how to actually get them to lay again. And so I responded to that with fervor. Let's just say that, right? I give it to them, and maybe a little bit too harshly, but nevertheless, it's probably what they needed to hear. And as expected with that, I mean, there was a lot of what do you call that? Anyways, it wasn't well received by many very specific individuals of a certain persuasion. And when I say persuasion, it's like you literally couldn't persuade them of anything. And there was a large outcry amongst half a dozen or more that were like, why should we believe you? A lot of straw man arguments that were made. Why should we believe everything you say? Well, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't believe anything I say. I mean, this is just, it's YouTube, but yeah, it's just another facet of the internet. I'm just a guy on the internet. But I don't have any stock or any investment in any way, shape, or form in feed. I don't produce any feed. I have to buy all my own feed. I don't buy Tractor Supply feed. I actually buy from a friend of mine who's a local grain farmer, and I buy it by the ton. I don't buy it by the 50-pound bag. So maybe I'm not qualified to comment on this, but I mean, I can read a nutritional analysis on a bag just the same as anybody else. But then it got real weird. It got into the whole, like, eggs. There's immunoglobulin and antibodies in eggs that could potentially impact the human body's ability to recover from COVID-19. And so there was some suggestions that maybe the government was messing with the chicken feed, because if they can mess with the chicken feed, they can get the chickens to stop laying. If the chickens stop laying, then it removes this additional source of immunity from COVID, and then we're all going to have to get the jab. And it's like, oh my God, like, how far down this rabbit hole do you people really want to take this? And then there was, the other side of things where I made suggestions about, okay, well, we're in February, so it's basically between October and March, your reduced daylight hours. You should probably add a little bit of supplemental light, and supplement with some black oil sunflower seed or some high energy stuff, like maybe some cracked corn or something like that. And then a lot of folks say, so you are saying that there's something wrong with the feed? And I'm like, well, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that there's a baseline, and you're anywhere from 14 to 18% basic layer ration, depending on what you're getting. I mean, you might be getting that, for $11 a bag. You might be getting it for $20 a bag. It all depends on what you as a consumer decide to purchase, is what your baseline quality of your feed is. And you have to understand that, during times of, let's call it environmental duress, right? It hits 40 below. And we see that lots in our area. We get a Chinook one day, it's 5 above. Like just yesterday, it was 7 above. 3-4 days before that, it was 20 below. That's what I mean by environmental duress. And that's uncomfortable. That provides stress on the birds, and it's going to have an impact on their productivity. And so what can you as a producer do? And I provided all of these suggestions, and needless to say, there are a few folks that just they won't be convinced. And that's, that's fine, because while they're unconvinced, and if they stay unconvinced by themselves, they can't hurt anything. But it's when these things, these suggestions, these little innuendos that come out on the internet, that sow seeds of doubt amongst people that are, maybe just desperate for information. Maybe they're new to raising chickens, and they don't understand, the difference between what's a suggestion and what's reality, and what's like completely out there versus what's a well-established fact. They're just looking for answers. They're just like, hey, you know what? We got these chickens. We wanted to get into chickens. We want to have our own fresh eggs, be healthy. It's going to be a wonderful. And then, of course, the things don't lay, right? Now, the one universal fact that I was really, really challenged on in both videos was about timing. So in my last video, I'll put my foot down. I'll die on this hill. I'll bleed to death all day long on this hill. Is that if your chickens haven't laid in 5 to 6 months, the problem isn't the chicken, the problem isn't the feed, the problem is the producer, right? Because you've waited too long. You've actually done a disservice to your animal or your birds. You really should have intervened or investigated, most certainly, at a much earlier time frame. Now, it is expected that generally around October, depending on where you are in the world, your chickens are going to go into the molt. And for an approximate period of 2 months, you maybe won't see an egg, and that's perfectly normal and perfectly acceptable. But after that, then you should start saying, okay, well, what do I need to do, right? And even during that molting period too, you can be feeding a little bit of corn, you can be feeding a little bit of black oil sunflower seed. There's some folks that feed cat food and all kinds of other stuff. I wouldn't recommend that, because they're I mean, cat food, dog food, it is species specific. Of course, it has other stuff in it that may be beneficial, but there's also some stuff in there that's really just going to make your hens fat, and fat hens actually, believe it or not, aren't as productive as trim hens. So anyways, with that said, I will stand my ground on this one. I will stand behind my statement 100% that if your birds haven't laid in 5 to 6 months, you really shouldn't be looking at the feed. The feed may affect it. That may be one of a few factors. You might need to supplement that, but the reality is you should have done that like 4 months ago, right? 3-4 months ago, you probably should have been looking to do that. Is something wrong with the feed? Again, understand that 18% or 16% layer ration that you're getting, whether it's from Tractor Supply or somewhere else, is providing base nutrition. There's not a single feed marketer out there that will actually make a molt ration, right? It just doesn't exist. And the reason why it doesn't exist is because it could be a 6 week or 6 to 10 week period that they're selling this for throughout the year, right? And it's not consistent, and it's not economical for them to produce it. So it is the responsibility of the farmer then to supplement as necessary during those times a year. And that's something that maybe you don't learn the first 1 or 2 years, but once you learn it, after that, it's just very intuitive that you need to do this, and you'll see the results very, very quickly in your birds. So don't take it personally if I offended anybody. That wasn't my intent. The intent was to kind of spur on a little bit of conversation and get some people really thinking about it. And I think some folks really did think about it. Some folks found it maybe a little bit refreshing to hear, nobody was drinking the Kool-Aid kind of thing. Like, I'm not taking any nonsense. That's not the reality. And we shouldn't allow people to, to further negative interests in conspiracy theory and lack of trust. And that's, maybe that exists. maybe there is, you know, some cabal in a back room somewhere that's planning global domination. But that's not why we're here. That's not why we're here in this community. That's not why, as homesteaders, we're trying to YouTube and share our knowledge. That's completely irrelevant. We're here to be a community, here to support each other, so that we can, you know, provide for our families in the best possible way. So anyways, I'm going to conclude this here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope we didn't rile anybody up too much in the last couple of days, but certainly had a whole bunch of new subscribers come on here in the last 48 hours. So if you're new to the channel, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on. Hope to see you, you know, in future videos, coming in through the comments section, stuff like that. Love to have that engagement. And yeah, let me know what you're doing on your farm, how you're managing with getting chickens laying. Like I said, I'm pretty happy with a little bit of extra lights and black oil sunflower seed. Works pretty good for me. Every once in a while, maybe ferment a little chicken feed, but you know, I take all of the risk of anybody tampering with my chicken feed completely out of the picture by purchasing locally grown grain from a friend of mine. His name's Rob, and he's actually got a YouTube channel as well. It's Millionaire Farmer. So if you wonder how like the grain industry works here in Northern Alberta in Canada, you can check out his channel, and you'll see it all. And it's fully transparent, and there's no room for conspiracy there. So anyways, I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'll let you go for now, and we'll see you tomorrow.